Joining me now is Martha Laning, the Wisconsin Democratic Party chairwoman. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. You doing okay?
I am great and happy to be here.
This is, Martha, about the norms of our country. When you lose an election fair and square, you're supposed to step aside, let the winner. I don't know, what would you call about what's happening here?
Well, this is clearly a power grab. You know, the foundation of our democracy depends upon a smooth transition of power. It depends upon us respecting the will of the people. What happens on Election Day, those that win, we transition power. And this is, you know, the Republicans here in Wisconsin are not following that age-old tradition in Wisconsin of having smooth transition in power. And we're hoping that Governor Walker will come to his senses by having people call in and let the governor know that this is his legacy that he is, you know, writing right now. And we need him to veto these bills because they are not the will of the people that was clearly stated in the election in November.
Yes.
And they're just not right.
Well, he signaled his support for the measures, but you think this will be a stain on his legacy, right?
Absolutely, and we're seeing people. Absolutely, and we're seeing people all over Wisconsin that are calling into him, and we're encouraging people to do that. You know, Republicans, very prominent Republicans, have come out against what has happened here, that the people selected Governor-elect Tony Evers and Attorney General-elect Josh Kaul to lead our state, and instead of respecting that decision, the Republicans under Voss and under the leadership of Governor Walker are usurping that power. And we think it's a tragedy that our governor-elect will not have the same authority that Governor Walker has enjoyed the last 8 years. So it's just simply wrong.
Let's talk more about that now, because these bills now sitting on Governor Walker's desk, they'd weaken the state's executive branch at precisely the time Democrats are set to reclaim it after nearly a decade on the outs. Are Republicans in Wisconsin trying to undo, do you believe, undo the results of the 2018 election?
Clearly they are. I'll give you a good example. Josh Kaul and Tony Evers ran on the fact that Wisconsin was involved in a lawsuit against Obamacare, and it was a challenge to pre-existing condition coverage for many Wisconsinites all over our state. Tony Evers and Josh Kaul ran on that they would pull out of that lawsuit. And if these bills are passed, it is taking the authority away from Josh Kaul to do just that. So this is a direct offensive to a piece of a promise that these officials, these candidates made, that they will not be able to follow through on because of these bills. You
mentioned Tony Evers and Josh Kaul. So Wisconsin voters turned out in large numbers to elect those two Democrats, right? And GOP leadership responded by calling an extraordinary session meant to strip powers from both offices. Is there anything that can be done to stop them?
Yeah, I mean, we have been having voters all over the state of Wisconsin calling in, and it has been working. I mean, we have made changes to
Do you think
these
that's
bills.
making a difference?
I do think it's making a difference, and I'll tell you, they delivered this bill late on Friday. They then had a hearing on Monday, and on Tuesday, they were in and out of caucuses. They would not do anything in a transparent manner. They don't even know what they've passed. There's hundreds of pages, and they don't even know what they've passed. But they were originally trying to change the timing of the 2020 primary for the presidential. They were concerned that it would give the Democrats an advantage. It would have cost millions and millions of dollars to taxpayers to run two separate elections, and that was taken out. They eliminated it, and we're very proud of the fact that people calling in and letting them know this is wrong. But they continued with pieces that are simply wrong, taking away powers from Governor-elect Tony Evers and restricting what Josh Kaul can do in his position. And need more people to speak up. This is an attack on our democracy. Call Governor Walker and tell him to veto these bills.
You think Republicans view, I'm wondering if you think Republicans view an election victory that isn't by a Republican as somehow an illegitimate outcome. And if you do think so, why is that?
I think these Republicans that are in control here in Wisconsin, they have just, they have attacked our democracy over and over and over again. They rigged the system so that just in this past election, there were over 54% of the votes for representatives in our assembly were Democrats, right? Yet we only got 36 out of 99 seats. We are so gerrymandered here in this state that it is rigging the system so that Democrats can never take control. If we do not change that, you know, it's taking the will of the people away from them. It's allowing the elected leaders to pick their constituents versus the constituents picking their leaders. The Republicans just keep doing one thing after another to keep control and to rig the system.
What kind of precedent does this set around the country, you believe, if this indeed passes?
Well, North Carolina's had something similar to this, and they do have a lawsuit that they're dealing with. And we're just seeing that the Republicans are going from state to state, and they you know, it was with our Act 10, with right to work. These things were created by ALEC, and then they spread throughout the nation. And it is an attack on our democracy. These, you know, we need to ensure that all people have a right to vote, that voting is easy. We need to be sure that the people have the ability to select their elected leaders. And if these bills are signed by Governor Walker, we will hold them accountable. On November 3rd, 2020, we will remind the voters that these Republicans did not want their voices to be heard and did not want their will to move forward. And that's just simply wrong. And we know Wisconsinites will do something about it.
This president and some in the Republican Party are always talking about voter fraud, election fraud. Do you view this as election fraud?
Election fraud is something that the Republicans talk about so they can rig the system more. The facts are you have a better chance in the state of Wisconsin of being struck by lightning than finding a case of election fraud. This is all just talk that they do to try to rig the system to enable their party to have control. And it's time that we get back to our Wisconsin values, our national values, that we believe in fairness and transparency, that we're not going to go hide in a caucus behind closed doors and write secret legislation and then shove it through without proper review and an ability for the public to speak about or to give their viewpoint about this legislation. All of this is against our democracy, and it's very important that people speak up and call Governor Walker